Welcome back to the Believe Me Movement podcast. We are here today again with our very special guest, Terry, who's sitting in the seat of honor. He joined us on February 21st, telling us about an extraordinary experience that he had. He was an eyewitness who saw multiple UFOs, including a black triangle in what appears to be a mothership. And he's got video. And it all happened Friday night, February 7th in Flat Rock, Michigan. Now, this guy that we're going to bring on in a moment is absolutely extraordinary. If you heard the show before, you already know he has a massive background in being a cop, a detective, and just extraordinary background in being very, very detailed and accurate. He has integrity. He's legitimate. And out of the blue, he's outside with his dog, and he looks up in the sky, and he is compelled to record all of this video. And how he wound up telling Ken Sylvester about it, you've got to listen to the show on the 21st, because we're bringing Terry back on. Terry, in a moment, I'm going to bring you back on, but right now let's talk to Ken. Thank you, Ken, for being here with me. Do you think Terry's ready?
Yes, Terry, I think we need to continue our story so we can hear more.
Great.
So, Terry, when you were on the last show, you were mentioning that you have been through the most challenging situations that any human really can go through in human form. And you were just talking about one lifetime of them, one adult career. And then, of course, I was throwing at you that you'd had past lives of doing multiple things of that nature as well. And you rolled right along with it. You did mention that you felt very anxious and didn't sleep for a couple nights after this experience of seeing all these UFOs and recording them. I'm wondering, how are you doing now? Are you still feeling the same level of anxiousness, or has that shifted at all?
Yeah, it's calmed down a little bit. Started thinking about some things and try to compartmentalize it and see what to do next.
And so on the last show, you were mentioning that you had a dream. And
yes.
Is that something you'd like to talk about now?
Sure. And I really haven't talked about it much. But yes, you want me to go ahead right now?
Yes.
Thanks, Robin. A few weeks ago, I was having dinner with an ex-wife. We're best friends. And I have vivid dreams. And, I mean, they're right there. Color, the whole shot. And I remember a lot of them. So we were at dinner, and I said, you know what, I just had a dream the night before the dinner. And I said, you know, I started thinking about God for whatever reason. And, you know, I had a Catholic upbringing. I don't go to church. I have, but I don't go now. And I like those religions, you know, and if it's good for all those people, that's great. I mean, that's a perfect thing. But I don't quite believe in it. I just believe in something bigger, massive, all-encompassing. So I started thinking, what would be like that? What would be so cumbersome, encompassing that it wrapped her arm around everything? And it hit me, water. Mm-hmm. What if God was water? You know, I started thinking there's water on these planets. I mean, they've even showed that the Mars at one time had water. And I think common belief is that we were created from a mud pool of a little bit of water that come off of an asteroid or a comet or something. And here we are. That's my thinking. I haven't gone away from that. I just stopped thinking about it for a while, but that thought is always there. And it just makes sense to me because I think there's water in a lot of planets.
Well, that is brilliant in more ways than, I mean, you just blew my mind. And you didn't tell us about your dream, which is fine. You went into how you perceive God. And so what I'm going to tell you back is that water, as you know, is the strongest element. And it is considered to be the element of what's called the divine feminine, the creatress of all life, which you just stated. And I didn't know that. Oh, well, yeah. And so, and in the last show, I was telling you that in past lives, I saw that you were part of the Knights of Templar. And what did they do? They protected the creators. They protected the divine feminine. They understood that all things come from that, which obviously is water. And in addition to that, Terry, some of the extraterrestrials who are very, very benevolent are referred to as the Octurans. And the Octurans are very interested in water. They actually come to our planet to get water, to bring it to other places where water is depleted and water is needed to keep the life forms going in other places. So it's very interesting to me that you brought that up. And I will say from my perspective, Ken and I, when we had a very mystical reason why we even met each other, not as mystical as you two meeting each other, which people can listen to the previous show to find out how insanely miraculous that is. But we were told that the reason why we were doing this Believe Me Movement podcast was to anchor in the dimension of love. And it's the kind of love that is the Christ love. It's agape love. It's cosmic love. And when I was 3 years old, I had a near-death experience. I drowned in water. And Jesus came to me. And he told me many, many things. But all of a sudden my brain fried. So, Ken, you're going to have to take over because I just kind of left my body. Ken, can you talk to Terry for a minute so I can come back in?
Oh, yeah, sure. Again, something else I found, too, is that here you are, a UFO person, in that you had read my book, and then you just brought me over another book called In Plain Sight. And I started to read it, and you're right, I can't put the book down. But here you are reading 2 UFO books, and you're reading about people in these stories that are in the book that tell their story. And now here you are telling a story. And I just wondered how now that you're an experiencer and have been a witness, and if you told the story and we put it into a book, that you would see how people then react. As you know, it's not as, what I'm trying to say, it's not as much resistance these days compared to what it used to be. Like back in the 60s and the 70s, you told this kind of story, and, people definitely thought there was something wrong. There wasn't much belief going on. And that was part of this whole Believe Me, is that we wanted to create a space where people like yourself could tell their story and we would believe you. We're not going to be skeptics and try and debunk your story. We're looking for ways to find and connect it all together. And what credibility with the strength that you have in the back and all that you witnessed that night. I've done research now going on 3 years. I don't ever remember having anybody ever record such a long video, 1 hour and 40 minutes. These people get snippets, 1 minute, 2 minutes here. You've probably seen them. Some are less than that. They're 15, 20 seconds. So for some reason, and maybe Robin will be able to tell us why, for a whole hour and 40 minutes, that these ships stayed there. And that's unusual, too, for them, because you would think during that time of 1 hour and 40 minutes, I wonder why they didn't send up any jets. One of the reasons could be that they were not picking it up on radar. And nobody reported anything. Otherwise, with that many ships up there for that long, you would think that eventually they would set up something to investigate.
So Robert, I didn't tell you, but we had another witness.
Okay.
I don't know if Ken told you, but my sister, who helped me with the videos, left my house and just got done with the videos. We uploaded on iCloud or something. So she goes to CPS. And she's standing in line. There's a guy right behind her, kind of close with his daughter. And he's telling the daughter that, man, the crazy thing he's seen just the night before. in the skies. He said, man, there was ships everywhere. Things were moving all over the place. And she goes, oh my God, she introduced herself and says, I just left my brother's house, who seen probably the same thing. And he said it freaked him out. And come to find out, he's a private pilot at an airport close to this area here. And he said it freaked him out.
Well, there may be more witnesses. And Ken, if there are more witnesses, do you want them to email you or email my email? How do you want to handle that?
Well, we posted, but you haven't seen it yet, but I've posted on there that if there are any witnesses that saw this, or if they wanted to be on the show, and I did put my email address on there. And if I get some local response, that's why I stuck my email address in.
Good.
And then Dave repeated it again and put both our email addresses on, so that if there are other people out there, it may take a while for that message to get out there, because we had the most views in 24 hours, like 160. So the word will start to spread around, and then maybe by next week we'll get a response through my email that somebody else saw it that night, maybe even videotaped, and they're afraid to come forward.
Well, that's certainly understandable. It takes some courage to do what Terry's doing, and I really appreciate it. So, Terry, the thing that I wanted to tell you in the last show that I my brain fried for a minute there, is, again, I'm going to talk to you about past lives. I saw that you were in the past life when Jesus was born. And people talk about like the three wise men going, and they talk about, the stars in the sky. But I saw that you had been a witness of that you had been like a shepherd, and you were out, and it was a really clear night, and you looked up in the sky. Of course, I don't think you knew that Jesus was born or had any idea of all that in your presence of where you were. But I'm telling you now that this ability that you have to be summoned to videotape an hour and 40 minutes of extraterrestrial activity like this, it's something that's in your soul. It's something that you've seen before, and it's just coming. It's almost like a cellular memory for you, and that could be true with other people who will come forward as witnesses. And like you said, you already know about some, that people who have experiences with extraterrestrials probably have in themselves a bigger concept of God. We understand that it's cosmic, it's not planetary, and it's certainly not just national. The idea of God, the idea of even Christ, it's cosmic. It's not just one planet. It's other life forms, it's other planets, it's love, and it's huge, it's massive. And for you to come in and participate in the expression of anchoring in love, of acceptance, of showing up, of being brave and telling your story and saying, I feel anxious, I couldn't sleep for 2 nights, but this is what I experienced. That is a deep love of truth. How do you feel when I say that to you?
I feel better. I actually talked to my kids about it, and I wasn't going to, but they took it way better than I thought they would, and then they started listening, and they must have sensed that I was anxious and compelling and giving them the truth, and they start responding. They start going along with it and asking questions, and that was not the response I expected. And I haven't told very many people. I have some close friends I haven't told yet. And so I'm just hanging in there, see what happens. I think a lot of these people would like to talk to each other,
Yes, that's the whole point of what we're doing. And eventually there'll be a membership where people can talk to each other and support each other, because basically what this is about is being authentic. It's a wonderful asset to be able to compartmentalize, but it's also a wonderful asset to just speak the truth authentically and find out that being vulnerable and sharing this, it's connecting us heart to heart and a deepening of the expression of love. because when you tell your ex-wife and you tell your children and they respond to you in a positive way, doesn't that make you feel more loved?
Yes. Yes. It works.
And that's, yes. And so that's the point. That's the whole point of this experience, is for us to bring in love. And I'm going to explain it from quantum physics, which we live in a quantum universe. So quantum physics applies. Quantum physics states that when 51% of an energy goes in a certain direction, the other 49% has to follow. So everything is energy. If we're contributing to the energy of love, eventually 51% goes in that direction and the other 49% follows, then is uplifted. All boats rise with the tide. And so this whole experience that was so personal and private to you and vulnerable to you that you're sharing, it's almost like it's like ministering love, which is the whole teachings of what Christ is supposed to be.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way, actually.
Well, and it's also very biological, like you said. I mean, it does start in water. I mean, I think it was the jellyfish that was like the first thing that was in water, and it didn't have a nervous system, and then like it came on land or something. I don't know the whole physiology of things, but obviously you, Terry, know that we came from the stars. We are star beings.
Yes.
Yeah. And so if you think about it, who's really the extraterrestrials? You know, like let's redefine how expansive we are as souls and how many different experiences we've had as souls both on and off this planet, and then it becomes less stressful to have a relationship that is conscious and aware with other beings from other places, because they just haven't come here yet. We're here.
I think a lot of people have questions. Yeah,
and what kind of questions do you think they have?
Well, that's a good question. What do I do if I do see something? How do I know that it's something there? How do I tell somebody? How do I communicate this? How I felt during that visual that I'm seeing, that I'm trying to put two and two together, and it's turning out to be 4, and I'd never planned that.
Right.
I just went out there and, I'm curious, the mystery of this whole thing, and I've always been curious, and, I never thought I'd see one, but, it was literally at my doorstep, and I guess that's how it happens.
Well, you're a spectacular role model that answers the questions you just asked, because if people act like you and are willing to show up and just let the experience unfold and accept the unknown and be aware that this is an experience, it's not an explanation, and by us sharing it with each other, it creates a bond and it builds a vibration of love. That's the whole point of that. It's like a community or a congregation of wow, all of a sudden I can really feel the extraterrestrial starting to come in. Go ahead, Terry.
No, basically that's it. I think people want information. They want to know things. Everybody has questions. I mean, we're a curious people, aren't we?
Yeah.
I was a cop. I was a cop because, if there's red lights down the street, I want to be there to see what happened, like everybody else. Everybody's curious,
Yeah.
And, you want the inside information. Everybody's that way, I think. At least I am. And so, I mean, and my dad actually got me in the police department. He had a really good friend that was a copper, and some of my former coaches in my early days were cops, and I followed in their footsteps in the same department.
Well, you've been guided, you've been summoned, and you're certainly on a path of prosperity is the word that's coming through. There's a lot of prosperity here. and there is prosperity in truth. Ken, before I tune into these 3 ETs that I'm sensing, is there something that you'd like to share?
No, I'm intrigued by this conversation right now, so I'm just going to let you continue on and see what else we can find about Terry here.
Okay, well, I'm starting to get a bunch of different visuals. I'm going back and forth. I'm seeing in my third eye clairvoyantly these 3 extraterrestrials. So far, they're not speaking to me. They're sort of out of my right third eye area. Out of my left side, I'm going back into when I was having the near-death experience when I was 3 years old, and Jesus was the one who came to me. And one of the things he said to me was that it wasn't my time to die yet. He said the first half of my life was going to be extremely difficult because even though I was of the holy lineage, I had conducted myself in ways that broke universal law, and that I would be held accountable for that karmic behavior. And there was, nobody gets out of that, right? If you don't obey universal law, eventually it's going to catch up to you. And so he told me, you're going to go through some stuff. And if you survive it, he told me you will move to the city where movies are made, which I understood to be Hollywood. And he told me that it would come to be known that Mary Magdalene was not a prostitute, that was a lie in the Bible. And he told me other things too, which I don't want to get distracted by too much of what happened to me in my near-death experience. I want to weave it into these extraterrestrials, but they're telling me to continue with my experience with Jesus, so I guess I will do that. Jesus told me that the story of his death is actually less significant than the story of his birth, because it was very important that his mother had the dream and was told by God ahead of time what her child's soul purpose was. And she was told, basically what she was going to need to do to support him as a soul. And ultimately, we know that that's what Jesus did. He fulfilled his soul purpose. And so that understanding that the divine feminine, the mother, the water, you were talking about the water element, we understand that the water element represents the divine feminine. Well, the divine feminine is all about what we feel. And feelings are timeless. So if you had a feeling in one lifetime or another, it is going to come with you. You will have what's called a bleed-through memory, that no matter what you felt, no matter when it was, eventually it can't be compartmentalized anymore. It will rise up, it will bubble up, and you will feel it, and you will witness it, or you will share it, or you will do whatever you do with it. And hopefully you don't feel guilty and not express it. You'll share it. But feelings of the divine feminine, feelings are recorded in water. And so it's all the same divine magical frequency that's coming through in our understanding of how we are biologically and how we are spiritually, that it's our bodies that came from water, that are mostly water, are recorded our feelings as souls throughout all time, space, and beyond. And we are cosmic. We are star beings, and we are here to be farmers of love, to produce love. That's ultimately what we're all here to do. And now I'm going to move to these 3 extraterrestrials. I'm not familiar with them. They're very tall. They are wearing garments. It appears to be like some sort of pant, loose-fitting pant, and then they have like a tunic. So they are humanoid in the way that they look. Their heads are pretty elongated. They do have, 2 eyes. I'm not sure if I'd call it a nose. Maybe it's like a little hole or something. The mouth is clearly not a mouth that you would eat with, so I'm not sure how they sustain themselves. But they are speaking, and they're saying that they are a breed of the Ebens, and that they are referred to as the High Council of the Ebens. They've been visiting this planet since the beginning of time, that they've been overseeing the development of humanity. So they were here like at the preconception of the gestational process of the human even, coming into its development. So they've known Ken, Robin, and Terry for eons of time, even before they came to this planet into human form. They are here to speak specifically with Terry. They orchestrated the encounter where his ex-wife, who is a lovely soul, to purchase Ken's book and give it to Terry, and then knew that Terry would read it because he was summoned by his collaboration with his father and his openness to receive information from wherever it comes from. He is not a bigot of information. He is an acceptor of intelligence wherever it emanates from vibrationally. We knew that when he read the book that it was time for the orchestration of the encounter with the visual that he would record the ships. It was important that Terry record that there were multiple ships from different groups of extraterrestrials, as it is time for the American public and the global company of collaboration of beings to understand that there are beings from other realms who are assisting the ascension of the consciousness of the human race. So although it appears to be dire on your planet, there are those of us who are here assisting, and the visual support and discipline of Terry to record us in action. The mission that we are on is to save the human race. We understand that we were participating, all of us, in the experience of birthing the human race, and now we see that there is difficulty in the human race sustaining itself. And so when we speak about a mission, the ships were communicating to Terry that the mission is not just to save a ship, but rather to save the human race. And so it was important that he remember who he is on a soul level, and even if he does not understand exactly what we are saying or what Robin has the capacity to do, he is still listening and taking in the information, and because his brain has the ability to compartmentalize, he will do that until he is able to thread the needle of the information and have it make more sense to himself. These encounters that Terry has had, he has had with each one of these particular groups of extraterrestrials, but not all at once. So it was not uncommon for him to have had a visual from this lifetime or others, even though he does not remember it, that he knew that there were different species and that he had seen and had interaction with them. However, he had not done so with them in communication with the different species of extraterrestrials together. But it is time for you to understand that it must be revealed. It must come to the surface that we are here, that you are not alone, and here is the proof, as Ken Sylvester's book title states. For if you do not understand this before the people take over the social networks and control the data of information that is distributed, then there will be no opportunity to let the people know that we are here and that we are assisting them. We will not rescue you, but we will assist you. Like a parent who would help a child learn to walk, we will do so, but we will not walk for you. We are the Eben High Council, and we are going to exit Robin Alexis at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay.
And we are nearing the end again of our time zone.
Okay, well.
That was, wow.
Okay, so as we're coming to the end of the show, Terry, how do you feel? Are you still feeling anxious? Because I want to help you if you are.
No. Actually, I seem to have calmed down, and I don't have that weight on my chest. I feel good. I feel fine.
Good. Then
that's great.
This is what the whole Believe Me movement is about. We literally bow to you. We honor you, Terry. Thank you so much for being who you are and coming out and role modeling how people can respond to these situations. Let's all join together and understand that we are cosmic beings and that we are anchoring the dimension of love. Thank you both for being on the show. Ken, is there anything you want to say?
No, I think you said it all. Very good today.
Okay, how about you, Terry? Any closing remarks?
Mirror Ken. Very, very good, Robin. Very good. And thank you. Thanks for assisting me, and thanks for your platform here, and thank you. I didn't look for any publicity. It just fell on me, and
it definitely did. This is divine purpose being manifested. And so I want to, again, thank you, Terry, and maybe we'll have you on the show again, because one of the things that came up is that your dog actually probably could use some assistance from our pet healer, Dr. Nels Rasmussen, because who knows what the dog experienced that night. So I would like to have you on again if you're willing to see what can happen. What did your dog experience, and see if your dog needs any kind, or actually anybody who was a witness to this, if their pets experienced it. Not only humans might have been traumatized by this, so let's be really, really open-minded about that as well. So again, you've been listening to the Believe Me Movement podcast. This is a space for you to come, like Terry did. You can share your experiences with UFOs, extraterrestrials, paranormal experiences, if you've had a near-death experience like me. And like we said, we offer pet healings. Dr. Nels Rasmussen, he's one unique dude, man. He'll help your pets in ways you can't even imagine. So if you want to come on the Believe Me Movement podcast, you can email me at spiritladyrobin@gmail.com, spiritladyrobin@gmail.com. And this show has been brought to you by RobinAlexis.com. Over and out.
Over and out.